We have four people here,
okay.
so we have a quorum.
Okay. All right, well, if everyone's ready, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:21. Pam, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Pell,
Here.
Ms. McKnight,
Here.
Ms. Evans,
Here.
Mr. Brumleaf.
Here. Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Winstrup?
So move.
Second.
Motion second to excuse John Winstrup. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? John, we're sorry you're not here. First item is review of the minutes from December 9th, 2020. Has everyone had a chance to review them, and are there any additions or corrections?
I see no additions or corrections on my behalf.
All right,
Me neither. Make a motion to approve as is.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of December 9, 2020. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we were all there, so good. All right, our first case this evening is Milford South Phase 2 site plan revision.
All right.
Ann, would you introduce the case, please?
Yes, this is a revision to the Milford South Phase 2 zone change and plan development overlay at 777 Garfield Avenue. The applicant is Commercial Development Services Group, Paul Shermer. Acreage is 6.4 acres of a 13.59 acre parcel. Tax parcel ID is 210729.026P. The existing zoning is R4 multifamily residential district with a planned development overlay. The property to the north, east, and west is zoned R3 single family residential, and to the south is Valley View, and that's zoned R2. Planning Commission will hold a public hearing to review a request for revision to the Milford South Phase 2 site plan. On September 15th, 2020, City Council approved a request by Paul Shermer, CDSG, to rezone 6.4 acres from R2 to R4 with a planned development overlay to a portion of tax parcel ID 210729.026P. The initial plan approval included 6 townhomes and 7 duplexes for a total of 20 dwelling units. The revised plan consists of 6 townhomes and 14 single-family homes for a total of 20 dwelling units. The parcel address is 777 Garfield Avenue. Following the public hearing, the Planning Commission may recommend the application be granted as requested, may recommend a modification of the zoning change requested, and may recommend the application not be granted. After receiving the Planning Commission recommendation, the City Council will hold a public hearing. The council public hearing is scheduled for March 2nd at 7 p.m. in City Council chambers. Following the public hearing and after reviewing the Planning Commission's recommendation, council shall vote on the proposal. The council may overrule the Planning Commission recommendation by a 2/3 vote of the full membership of the council. If the council approves the revisions to the site plan, the applicant will be required to submit a final development plan to Planning Commission for review and approval. The final development plan will include a final grading plan, site plans, elevation, floor plans, and a detailed landscaping plan. The applicant has 1 year to begin construction once a final development plan is approved. Otherwise, the plan becomes void. Single-family dwelling units are allowed in the R4 zoning district, and the use appears to be compatible with the surrounding properties. Tim Casto, the city engineer, reviewed the plan revisions. He noted that the change to detached single-family housing has minorly reduced the amount of impervious area on the project, so there is no substantial change in the stormwater. They are still proposing to maintain the direction of water flow as it is currently draining to the downstream neighboring property. It does not appear that the developer has had any further conversations with Valley View about rerouting the outlet across Garfield. Mr. Messerly is preparing a full WSMSC permit application for Phase 1 and detailed calculation information that includes the Phase 2 work. The fire, water, and wastewater departments had no additional comments. Staff supports the applicant's request to revise the Phase 2 Milford South site plan with the 16 conditions approved by City Council on September 15th, 2020. That's it. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions for staff from the commission?
And Tim is available here on Zoom to answer any questions if you guys have anything for him.
Okay, so to clarify, we have the applicant and his engineer live at the meeting. City engineer is available through Zoom
Correct,
to answer any questions that may come up.
correct.
You folks are here for this project? The next project, okay. So we have several people that are joining us through
Yes.
Zoom.
I have Chris McBroom, Tim Casto, Carol Eichert, and Catherine Toller.
Okay, so we have several people that may be interested in this case, obviously some
Yes.
for the next case. So first, we're going to hear from the applicant and his engineer to explain what it is they're requesting. We'll have an opportunity for Planning Commission to ask questions of the applicant and his engineer. Then we will open the floor to anyone who wants to comment or ask questions here live and then on Zoom. Try to get all the information out for everyone to process and make a decision this evening. So, okay. If you would please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and explain your request.
And if you could go ahead and turn that microphone on, there's a little button. Yeah, there you go.
And how do you control?
Just touch it.
Just touch it?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. My name is Paul Shermer with Commercial Development Services Group, CDSG. The address is 1009 Delta Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45208. I'm here on behalf of the project at 777 Garfield Avenue. And let's see if we can get this to start and get the graphics going. Can you guys see this okay? Or do I need to turn this?
There, that's good.
That's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then. All right, thank you.
Herb?
Oh, we just left.
There we go.
There we go. So let's see. Everybody knows where the subject property is, I believe. 77 Garfield, just outside of downtown, the old school, from what was previously approved back in the fall. And so that's just the intro slide. I forget how many of these graphics I showed at the previous meeting, but this is really just a 3D rendering that we've done of the entire development, which shows the phase one area with the single family houses. Over in this section, we have the phase two. That's the redevelopment of the school, the adaptive reuse, and then also the duplex units. So those duplex units, as noted by Pam, we've got 14 units here, and those units are attached and just separated by a party wall in between. The plan for that section that was approved looks something like this, where we've got the duplex units down here, and then the townhouses here, and then the phase 120 lots on this side. What we're proposing is a change of just these duplex units right here. Everything else in the plan would stay the same. And that plan, as proposed, would look something like this. So essentially what we're looking to do is, instead of having the duplex units share a party wall, basically break those individual units apart. So each one would stand as a single family house. And then furthermore, the HOA as proposed previously would be taking care of 100% of the lawn maintenance. All that's pretty much stays the same. So we're still looking at these as, well, 100% maintenance free. Looking at these as to be patio homes. And the only difference being is, instead of duplex shared walls, literally split apart and to be single family houses. So along with that, I just want to mention that the reason for making the switch was after presenting that plan to multiple builders and so forth, and other interested parties, it was asked to us on multiple occasions, can we split these apart? Can I get my own unit so I'm not sharing a wall? And obviously we kind of worked with Stan to kind of come up with a plan that basically has that condition, and we're able to kind of create that here. So before, on the previous units, I want to say that these were about 35 foot wide by 70 something feet long. Stan can mention what the exact amount is.
70 by 76 or 35 by 76.
And now these units here, we're looking at 40 foot wide by 65 foot deep. In this graphic, you could probably barely see it, but we actually have an overlay of what these things, where the duplex units used to be right here. And then the other change, as these things got a little narrower, not as deep as the previous duplex units, we were able to shift this road over a couple feet. And these units right here are actually further away from Miss McBroom's property to the east. So we've got a few more feet of green space over there. Now, albeit it's a little bit closer to the road, but we did what we can to preserve units. Just to further detail what these units can look like, this size actually matches up with several of the builders that we've talked to. One of them in particular had mentioned that we could share his plan. And this is kind of what the elevation of that particular house would look like. So 2-car garage, front entry door, and then I believe I've got a plan here. So let's see. So 2-car garage, front entry, get a nice little porch up front, maybe study in the front, first floor master with a master suite, get a bath, and then the full great room with first floor laundry. We could either create a 3-bedroom out of that unit by coming up to a loft area with a shared bathroom, or based on the location, it could have a walkout basement as well. So going back to the plan, we're thinking that the units that back up to the hillside would likely be a slab on grade, meaning that if you want the 3-bedroom unit, it's built into the attic space. And then these units here definitely have that option as well, but have the option to do a walkout basement as part of that. So that's basically the change that we're requesting at this time, is really just a modification of that initial PD approval. Working with Stan, he's looking to preserve the same detention areas that exist on site. So as noted in the previous plans, we've got detention here, we've got detention here, here, and also one proposed on this side as well. With that, I don't know if you want to say anything else about the engineering of the plan, but
Just real quick, there's a whole lot to say.
yeah, but I think at this point in time, we're basically, making sure that this, this change is acceptable to the city, and then we'll go through with the final engineering on the plan and its coordination with phase 1.
Really isn't a whole lot engineering wise. It's changed on the new layout.
Can I get you to just state your name and address?
Sure. Stan Meshley with Mesco Engineering at 2766 Wasson Road, Cincinnati. But as I was saying, there really isn't a whole lot changed engineering wise. The sanitary sewer and water main layout, just about identical. There's a little difference in the location of the water main coming down that hill, but that's about it. As far as stormwater management, as Paul indicated, we're looking at the same configuration or same location of detention basins. As the engineer alluded to, the actual impervious surfaces for this layout is slightly less, a little bit over 2,000 square foot of impervious versus the attached units. And the reason for that is the footprint for the building is less square footage. I have talked to the engineer relative to the flow of the stormwater and modifying the flow, some of it away from the existing flow through the adjoining property. As the engineer and I have talked, that's certainly something that the developer is interested in pursuing. We've done some investigation since we met last with Planning Commission or City Council. So currently there's a storm inlet right here that would need to be changed out to tie in our new pipe to that storm inlet. And then from that existing storm inlet, and that storm inlet is part of a storm system that handles the flow along Garfield. There isn't any, outside of the downspout connectors, there really isn't any storm pipe that connect in. There is one down here. But anyway, so we've got an inlet here, and then that inlet ties into that box culvert that crosses under Garfield. It's an old stone box culvert. From this inlet to that box culvert, we had an underground location company come out, and what they have found is they really couldn't get any farther than about here because leaving this existing culvert, there's an 18-inch plastic pipe that quickly hits into an old dilapidated corrugated metal pipe. So what it appears has happened, somebody, I assume the city, has sleeved a smaller diameter pipe into an existing pipe that needed to be replaced. And then that comes in and ties in that box culvert. What we've talked to the engineer about and the developer is looking to pursue it would be to replace that storm inlet and then replace that pipe all the way down to that box culvert such that it would be an adequate size to handle the flow from the existing water from the road, then the added flow from the our development. So we'd upsize that pipe versus the existing, replace the inlet, and then tie into that box culvert would be what we're looking to pursue with the city engineer. That's kind of it on stormwater management. Paul alluded to a little bit on the setbacks. So this house here, we originally, from the duplex units, we had a minimum 35-foot setback for the duplex. For the detached, we're now at 34-foot minimum, so we're a foot short of where we were. But again, as Paul had indicated, we've actually increased the setback of these units from this residence or from this property line. It was 120 foot, now it's 130 foot. So we've increased it that 10 foot, which is really the difference in the depth of these units. I was able to take these units and move them 11 foot over just because this residential unit is not as deep as the duplex. Really, that's pretty much all I have. It's really a very similar layout engineering wise, and really in a lot of regards geometry wise. It's just a matter of providing some space for in between the units for detached units.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the applicant or his engineer from Planning Commission?
Question about the your detaining capacity on property has not changed?
It would technically go down just slightly. It's not going to be appreciable enough to even make a difference in, a noticeable difference in the volume required. But we'll have less impervious surfaces. As I said, it's a little over 2,000 square foot, but so it'll make a small difference, but it would actually be less runoff with the current layout versus the old layout.
And that has to do primarily with what's actually what's actually catchment on site. Just to reiterate an earlier and long dead horse beating here. You're already managing the water that is coming on property from off property.
That's correct.
Yes, okay. The setback between Garfield and
Unit 1.
Unit 1, yeah. It's been cut in half from 60 to 30.
Right. That 30 would still meet the current zoning requirement.
Okay, so said, and is that roughly congruent with the setback available along Garfield for
It would be the same setback that's required for lot 1.
of phase 1?
That's correct. It's the exact same.
Okay. The downside being is that sidewall of that unit is no longer roughly coplanar with the school front face. Roughly. I just want to make sure talking about that. It steps 30 feet further forward
That's correct.
than what we would have. So the sidewall of D1 is now significantly closer to. Okay.
It's I think that's a good point because that's true. There is a 30-foot front setback, but he's not facing Garfield.
No, right.
You know, his side wall is facing Garfield. I was a little bit torn myself when I looked at the site plan because you bringing this building up closer to the street. Now we're looking at the side of the building and it almost looks out of place. But I did go and I measured, for example, Chris's house. Her house was about 27 feet back. But then as you go further up Garfield,
front of house.
Garfield,
Yeah.
but if you go further up Garfield, the houses get set back even further.
Sure.
You can actually see hers.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have some notion of compatibility here. I understand that the sidewall has stepped forward to Garfield significantly, but it's not as if that's without precedent. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would like to see is the landscaping that's going to go along there. Because the other option is to say, well, if you
Just
do that, you're
coverage.
going to have to turn it around so that its front is facing Garfield. I mean, that is an option, but seems kind of drastic.
Yeah, because then your backyard's facing the side of the other house. Like
Oh, yeah, sure.
that wouldn't be good.
Well, yeah, it seems like coverage could handle that problem
Now,
pretty easily.
this,
The other issue, if you rotate that house, you may have one or two curb cuts. So if you took these two
yeah.
and rotated those,
I wouldn't, no, I
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend another curb cut. I'd make that a side driveway off of that private drive, not a curb cut off of Garfield at all.
right?
Just, I guess what the question is, I have a further question coming up, and that is, so this is with precedent and has rationale to it. I get that. So what is the space between the units as a generality, specifically the ones up against the hillside there? Are those like 5 feet apart, 7 feet apart?
These units are 10 feet apart. And it's actually, let's see if
So that's 2 5-foot setbacks. Is that what I'm getting?
2 5-foot setbacks. The duplex units had, what was it, 18, 20 feet between the two? Stan?
We have 20.
20. And just for reference, the these houses right here, it's if you're familiar with Orchard Woods up in Montgomery, it's got a very similar sized house, and they actually have an identical setback. They are between each house. They have 10 foot between each house.
I just find that to be situational because oftentimes, especially in this orientation, that space could be a canyon between two structures and remain undaylit and possibly murky and mucky
Gotcha.
in the long term. Now, I'm not saying it will be. I'm
Right.
not saying it will be. I'm just
No.
saying there is that potential, and I'm wondering if there's been any thought as to addressing that.
We didn't think it was too far off. Well, like I said, given that there's an example of a high-end subdivision right up in Montgomery with the exact same dimensions, and also looking at what's, currently approved in the R2, which is only a 6-foot setback for a side yard.
Yes, it's just orientation is everything, and
Sure.
the warmest, most drying part of the day is going to be that which is shaded by that orientation. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that ends my questions.
How does the square footage and the price point of these compare to the duplexes?
We assume that it may be slightly higher, but it's relatively the same.
Okay.
It's just interest level.
Yeah.
So these become more marketable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time?
No.
Okay, is there anyone here in the room that wanted to comment on this or ask questions about this application? Okay, so we can open it up to our virtual attendees.
Chris, did you have any comments?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't really have any comments with respect to the change from the duplexes to the single-family homes, other than my continued interest in making sure that what has been called the natural flow of the water does not flow to the detriment of the downhill property owner, which is me. You can't really rely on the natural flow argument when you're altering the entire space and then say it's a natural flow, because it's not natural anymore. So as long as the city engineer is certain it's going to be adequate to handle the water, that's my concern. But I still don't understand why we can't have all of the stormwater flow into the stormwater system down the private driveway. Why does it have to go on my property at all? For instance, if you don't have the maps up of the stormwater system, which I think would be helpful to see what I'm going to be talking about. If you can put that on the screen.
Somebody change the,
Did you include the whole site plan?
No, I did not.
Oh,
Do you?
I've got it.
Okay.
give us just a moment. All right, Chris, we're looking at the stormwater plan.
oh boy, that's really hard to see.
It is.
There's a storm line that comes from storm storage number 3, the pond.
Behind the school?
It comes from behind the school, and then it comes over and it crosses under the private drive.
Correct.
and then it comes onto my property eventually. Why is that necessary? Why doesn't that go straight down to the street or into the stormwater pond that's up by the street?
Go ahead and reply to that.
Yeah, sure.
And that's what I had talked about earlier, that the engineer and I are, an engineer and the developers are working on. The city engineer, that is. So we've got this storm pipe that comes out of this detention storage here that had been originally proposed to go to where it goes today, but per the request of the city, what we're looking to do is tie into this proposed junction chamber, and then tie into that existing catch basin that's down here, which would now be a new catch basin, then pipe from that catch basin down to that box culvert. So as I said earlier, we would require then the upsizing of this pipe from that inlet down to that box culvert. So that's exactly what we're looking into doing.
So is that going to be a revised plan then that we're going to get to see? If he's requiring it, then you're going to go back and fix it before it's approved?
Well, that would have to be, certainly it would be something that has to be worked with on the city engineer for the approval of the stormwater management of the project.
But why isn't it being fixed now then? If there's a concern, why don't we just show it as it's a concern, address the concern now?
Seems like it would have to be a separate project from the city,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. It to be a separate project from the city that council approves?
You don't have the microphone, he does.
Thank you. Tim Castro with the Kleinger's Group. So that's an engineering detail that we've had some conversations with for this, but I guess it's my understanding from a process perspective that they're not at this stage of review, they're not necessarily required to have full engineering details and documents submitted for review. So I think this is more of, can they do what they're proposing, and then subsequently further engineering details are submitted for review.
That's
is
correct. They would eventually come back with a final grade or final development plan, which would include all the details that we will be working out. So
So is that going to be required?
yes, it is required as a part of the plan development process.
It's already a contingency of the approval for the first draft.
In other words, they can't start any kind of construction, any work at all until the final development plan is approved.
I
And
know,
there
but when
will-
you have these plans and then you were approving them and then you say they're going to try to see if they can do it, why can't they do it?
So I think, if I may, the city's process is to approve a preliminary plan where we set out the land use, the density, the general layout of the site. And once the developer gets the go-ahead that that plan is okay, then they get into the nitty-gritty of coming up with the final detailed plans that actual construction could occur from.
And
No.
you have a fair question. And that question is something that could be asked during final development plan. If they come back and say, well, we just couldn't make it work, then the question would be, why can't you make it work? So then that is the question. That is an appropriate question. Then at that point, then our engineer will say, give you reasons why it can or can't work. And Stan will give you reasons that it can or can't work. Does that make sense?
I just don't understand why you approve it in one way, but then the civil engineer, the city engineer says, we want you to do it another way, because how hard do they have to try? How do you document all that? I mean, how do I know what's going to happen behind closed doors? I mean, that's the whole point of having this public hearing, is to put it in as best shape as it can be put in.
And the city engineer, our city engineer will act on the city's behalf. They will give the best direction for what they think is best for the city. So yes, we do rely on the city engineer to look at it and analyze any set of plans on behalf of the city to give us the best project going forward. So yeah, we do put a lot of faith into the city engineer. He does great work.
And
I wasn't challenging that. I didn't mean to make it sound like that. I just don't understand how if you make them put the plan out there now, and there's page 6, and page 6 shows the system, but the city engineer has concerns about it. Isn't that why we're having this meeting now, to address those concerns now?
You want to take that?
And I guess for what's being approved, the page 6, the actual storm sewer details, I want to assume are not being approved tonight. And I have not seen any calculations to detailed supporting documents and calculations for even what's on the documents that are presented here tonight, or what the alternate that I have asked to see and be provided. So we just don't have enough engineering details even in front of us that I've been able to review or been provided to even approve what's even shown on page 6 from the detailed layout of the storm sewer.
What the city's reviewing now is somewhere between a concept plan and the final development plan. It is not the be all end all. It's not the final plan. If the developer gets approval, then he will go forward and do the final calculations that Tim will review. And all of that is formulas that he will analyze and agree or disagree with the developer's engineer as far as, does this make sense or not? So what he's looking at is just an approximation. This isn't the final development plan. This is more than a concept, but it's definitely moving in that direction. If Tim were to look at this page 6 and say that absolutely will not work, then we would ask them to change it before going forward. But at this point, Tim hasn't identified anything that they're showing on this plan that raises a red flag. So, but he needs the calculations to support a lot of the work that's being done on this plan, and that will come once Stan gets that done.
Okay, does that this additional requirement go in as part of the revised ordinance then, as a condition?
It's all part of, yeah, when council approved it in September, part of that condition, part of them moving forward is this final development plan, and that final development plan will have the calculations, all of the engineering. That's the plan we would expect to see that pretty much is going to be what will be built out there. Yes, it's as a part of that council approval in September, there was a list of 16 conditions that they have to comply with. So they've got a pretty long list, and they're not easy items, and most of it does relate to engineering and
Right.
making sure that it complies with our stormwater ordinances.
That's number 15 on the list. This is submit stormwater maintenance plan and all that information.
They've got a lot of work before they can even submit a final development plan. The final development plan will come back before Planning Commission, and you will have an opportunity to review that as well.
Oh, okay. I did.
Yeah, oh, yes. Yeah, you'll get a chance to look at that and make comments. And, the public in general will be able to come to the Planning Commission meeting and look at the plans as well.
Okay. Maybe I'll actually be able to actually come to the meeting next time. I'll have my vaccination by then.
we hope so.
Yeah. Did you want to add something, Tim?
I was going to say, when it comes back to Planning Commission, that's going to be the actual construction document that'll be presented.
Yes. It'll be a construction document type of planning. What you're seeing now is not construction documents.
Okay. Well, as you've heard my concern, it's the same as usual. I just don't want to have my property inundated. And if you'll look on that drawing again, it says there's an existing culvert. It's a little bit different than it was last time. They've changed some of the piping. They've decreased the size of the berms that are supposed to absorb some of the water, I guess, and now they're little walls and they're not berms anymore. And there's a culvert, say it's shown on my property, but it's a little teeny pipe that goes under my driveway. It's never been wet. It's not meant to handle a big outflow of water from a new development to go under my driveway and onto my patio. You can see the stormwater pipe comes from the property and crosses to my property. And you can't do that. You just can't pipe water onto somebody else's property. That's the part that's so concerning to me. So
Existing culvert.
Mm.
That's an existing culvert right here. What we propose to do is,
Can you pass him the microphone back?
that's an existing culvert that goes from this depression across to the neighbor's property. And that culvert now discharges into a wall system that has been constructed there. So what we've opted to do, and we thought it was a plus provided for the neighbor at our expense, was to put in a new culvert that daylighted to daylight and didn't daylight into the back of an existing retaining wall system. But that, I mean, I've got a drawing that shows that culvert there in 1960s.
well, there's no water that flows through it. I can tell you that. Historically, I've been here 12 years. It's never had any water flow in it. So if you're intending on having water flow to it now, it's going to be different.
We're not intending to change the flow of water to that depression.
Okay. Well, I guess I've had my say, and I guess I'll give up the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else, Pam?
No, I don't see anybody else.
Okay. As a result of Mr. Broom's comment, any other comments or questions? The applicant from Planning Commission? Any discussion?
Seems like a very feasible adjustment in the plan. I don't see any real issues here that, as we said, in the process can't be addressed at the point of the process that's appropriate, but I don't see anything here that I like it better, actually.
I agree with your sentiments.
I think your comment earlier about the unit being closer to the street is a good one. It's a corner lot. Which way a house faces on a corner lot, it's
The only thing, and prior to coming here, I saw that likewise, the side yard of lot number 1 in phase 1 is equally as close.
Yeah.
And that's kind of already in our rear view mirror too.
sure.
So
How far back are the homes on that street? Because as you get to that area where this development is, the houses face the street, but they're further back. Most of them are. But after that, after Chris Broom's house, actually, they all are side,
That's true.
Claritoma.
They are Claritoma. Yep.
And the ones in Claritoma are pretty close to the street.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it's like half and half of that street is.
On a corner lot, you have 2 fronts. So both fronts would have a 30-foot setback. So, for example, that lot 1 there on the other phase 1 would have a 30-foot on both sides of that.
Do you know what it is in that Claritoma area where those houses are facing sideways?
I don't.
They don't seem like they're 30 feet, but maybe.
No, but I don't know what it was approved for.
Right.
I don't know if it was.
I'm just trying to get proportions in my head.
It doesn't seem like they're
would
30
look.
feet.
yeah,
off of
it's just unfortunate that we were shown one thing that is become something else, and that's human nature here for us to kind of go, has some question marks
Mhm.
when
Yeah.
things change. So,
I think it's going to behoove the developer. Pam mentioned the landscaping
Landscaping.
plan. In order to market
it's going to be
that
better.
lot, he's going to need to soften the feel of that lot from the street
Yeah,
in order to make it.
That enormous, what could be an enormous vinyl wall or brick wall, blank brick wall could be mitigated.
Well, and I'm thinking more about the owner wanting to live in the house that's
Oh, there's that too.
so that's something we can also look at the final plan. I
Yeah.
think
Right.
that can be
What
addressed.
are the, having been in acoustics a long time, what is the intended, is there any selected finishes for the sidewalls at this point? Or is that yet to be
it's-
figured?
It's going to be builder dependent. We
I see.
still have not locked in with the actual builder. We've
Mhm.
kind of narrowed it down to a short list.
Okay. Suggestion is that wall very close to Garfield be as much mass as possible, which of course then says masonry if possible. So I give you free advice.
But I think we tend to agree with you as it's, part of it's going to come down to landscape and how we do soften that transition from Garfield up to the house itself.
Right.
And, do what we can to privatize that rear yard.
Well, it's to your advantage as well. So
Mhm. Right.
Okay. Any other discussion? Anyone prepared to make a motion regarding the request to revise the plan development overlay?
Staff has made no conditions that I see.
Just the original.
The original that would,
Be carried over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the only thing that would be changing is the unit type.
I guess I move to recommend the application be granted. I think it's as few words as that.
Second.
Third.
We have a motion and a second to approve the requested revision to the plan development overlay site plan. It's a public hearing, so we should probably do roll call.
Yes,
So would you call the roll, please?
yes. Ms. McKnight,
Yes.
Mr. Pell,
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Brumley?
Yes?
Thank you. So planning commission's recommendation to council is
Council.
that the request be approved. And you said council will hear that on March 2nd?
March 2nd, yes.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you and be
All right.
safe.
Well,
Thank
you very much.
everyone. Yeah, be safe out there.
All right.
If you're driving trucks.
Next request.
This is Carol Eichert.
Minor building improvements.
Minor building improvements, Forager Coffee and Tea. Let me,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Let
One
me read the staff analysis here, and then if Planning Commission has any questions for you, they will ask them. All
All
right?
right. Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
This project is Forager Coffee and Tea and minor building improvements to the front of the building. Location is 122 Main Street, Unit A. The applicant is Carol Eichert, and the acreage is 0.128 acres. Tax parcel ID 210709.026C. The zoning is the Milford River District. Existing use is vacant, and the proposed use is a retail restaurant. All the adjacent property is zoned Milford River District. Ms. Eichert purchased the building in September 2020. The building consists of 2 units, A and B. She will occupy Unit A, and Primitives and More occupies Unit B. Ms. Eichert intends to open a coffee and tea shop. Minor building improvements to the Unit A front facade are hardy board siding, new windows, door, and lighting. The color palette appears to be in keeping with the Milford River District. Staff recommends approval of the minor building improvements request with the following condition: that city approval is contingent on review and approval by the city engineer and any other local, state, and federal agencies. And I did include the color palette in your packet, I believe, and Ms. Eichert did actually submit a sample of the hardy board.
Oh, excellent. Hardy board.
That's not the color it will be, but that's the color.
Any questions of staff regarding these minor improvements? Okay. Ms. Eichert, if you would like to explain your project to us, we're all ears. Please
Okay.
state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my business address?
Sure.
Okay, so my name's Carol Eichert and the business address is 122 Main Street, Milford. And this part of the project is, we would just like to change the facade of the building to be more in keeping with the brand and look of the inside of the store as well, the shop. And so we're open. We have windows that will be open so that we can have that interaction with the pedestrians on the sidewalk, and it'll be beautiful. I don't know what else you want me to say. I mean, you see the little drawing there. I think it'll really add to the community, to that street, just the overall look. Mhm.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, you just let drop a brand of the store. Is this one of more than one stores?
Well, no, this is the first one. I mean, we'll just see what happens, but yeah, the branding, meaning I've been working with a branding, a graphic designer, what have you, for my shop. And so, we'll just see in a few years, but yes, this is the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
When is the expected finish date?
That's all I keep hearing. When's the coffee shop gonna open?
I know, that's what I keep asking. It's just, the process has taken a lot longer to get the plans together to submit for permit app. So the demolition's been done. We've gone as far as we can. And so I'm hoping to turn in the application for all the permits next week. So just, from there, then it should get knocked out, hopefully fairly quickly. My contractors are biting at the bit. So, but yeah, this is my first time going through this, so I'm not really sure what's realistic to expect. You might know better. Once I get my permits, I thought I was going to be open before Christmas. Let's just put it that way. So here we go.
I think it's going to be a huge improvement to downtown. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I hope it really serves the community well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the look.
Yeah, it looks more like the old town, hometown feel, and this is what now it's more modern looking. So.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Modern in some era.
Yeah, something. I don't know what era that. New design looks great. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Thank
looks
you.
great.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping to add a lot of character to it, and the inside too. It'll be designed pretty. It'll be a pretty sweet spot, I think. So.
Will you be serving food as well?
We will. Yes.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we will have a small kitchen for the coffee shop, just to make little things, but and then I'm bringing food in also there's a chef locally that's going to help, with some foods, and working with local coffee roasters and directly with tea farmers, and trying to repurpose. I have a barn that we're repurposing some wood from, and just trying to really take advantage of those resources locally. So yeah, that'll be good.
Yes.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, it
Thank you.
sounds great. Can't wait.
Oh, I did have a question. You just mentioned working with local coffee roasters.
Yeah.
Precludes that then that you're not going to be roasting on premises.
That's correct. We are not
Oh.
roasting right now. Yeah. It's phase one right now. So we're.
Can
we're
you
gonna
tell
get
us the roaster you're working with?
Do you have a request?
No.
Actually,
I'm just curious.
there's 2 roasters that we are coordinating with: Yield Coffee Roasters and Proud Hound at this point.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, both wonderful companies. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
so anything else?
Yes, hurry.
I know. Trust me. This is more painful for me than it is you. So anyway. Okay. Well,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on just a moment there.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Looks good.
Great.
Nice little coffee shop. I mean, tea. So it looks way better than what's there now.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, it's only an improvement and something we need.
Yes.
I mean, I have so many people that constantly ask me about it because, as you guys may know, I was always going down to the coffee shop when it was here.
Yeah.
So I'll be there on the first day.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
I actually do have a question.
Sure.
Is this the right time to ask it?
Sure.
So you had mentioned when you were introducing my case or whatever, however you call this, that it would be contingent on the review by the city engineer. So, okay. So I was just wondering what that meant. Like after today, like when you guys say, like, if you say it's okay, can I move forward or do I need to?
Yes,
Is there
that is just a condition I put on everything in case there is some sort of approval that I'm not aware of. But from a planning commission perspective, they will make their decision but there may be decisions the city engineer has to make. In this particular case, I doubt it, but
Okay.
I mean, for
Okay.
example, you'll have to get approval from the health department, which has nothing to do with planning commission, but it's an approval that you need to get. So if you don't get approval from the health department, then planning commission's approval doesn't override any of those approvals.
And you're saying the health department, not for the facade, but just for the inside with the kitchen and the bar. Because I've been
Correct.
dialoguing with them as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
You'll need building permits for a lot of that
Yes.
work. So you'll need to do that. And I think you mentioned that you'll be submitting building permits pretty soon here.
Yeah,
Yes.
with that condition, we're just basically saying we're acknowledging that there will be downstream approvals required and that we're not going to override those downstream approvals.
Okay. So the facade itself, it goes before the commission tonight because it's public view. But
As a
all
planning
of it,
issue, yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
as a
all of
planning
this will
issue.
go. But even my facade, like plans that my engineer's drawing up and everything, that'll go with my permit app. Correct. Is that-
All planning commission is approving what your building looks like and
Okay.
maybe the type of material or color of the paint that you might use on a building. And that only applies to projects downtown in that Milford River district.
Okay.
That's all planning commission is looking at tonight. Then you
Okay.
will need building permits for some or most of the work. You don't need a building permit for painting a building, but some of the other work that you're doing probably will require some sort of permitting.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm,
Okay.
still trying to figure out this process and that
No
was helpful.
worries.
Thank you.
Just give me a call if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay.
Okay. Was anyone prepared to make a motion regarding this?
The audience, they want to
Oh, I'm
speak or
sorry.
not speak.
Not-
No? Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
I'm waiting on it. I was gonna make sure.
They're
Well,
ready
like
for
an
coffee
auction,
as
you
well.
got to be careful of where your hand is.
All right.
I'll make a motion to move forward as the application states.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the exterior modifications as shown. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful.
All right.
Congratulations. We look forward to your opening.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Carol.
All right. All right. We'll see you later.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
I do have one more item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was approached by Jennifer Barlow a couple of weeks ago regarding if you know, on High Street, there's that church, that AME church was sold recently. It's 424 High Street, purchased in January of 2020 by Justin Saylor. There's actually 2 parcels associated with that church. It's zoned R3 single family residential. The comprehensive plan shows a future land use of that whole area there as single family. Jennifer operates a landscape design service, container planting, and when she called me, she was hoping to be able to do some sort of landscape design service, educational type of activity there at the church. And I explained to her that the property was zoned R3 single family residential. And in looking at the conditional uses, one of her questions was, you know, does this fit into an agricultural use? And so I gave you the definition here. Agricultural uses shall mean any land used for agricultural purposes, including farming, dairying, pasturage, apiculture, horticulture, floriculture, viticulture, and animal and poultry husbandry, and accessory uses such as composting, packing, treating, storing, or selling the produce, provided, however, that the operation of any such accessory use shall be secondary uses. And of course, I'll let Jennifer come up and speak on her behalf, but just kind of explain to you how we've gotten to here. And in discussing this with Jennifer, you know, I explained to her that I didn't really think the use that she was proposing qualified as an agricultural use. It's still a business. There will be activity up there. We, you know, have recently approved 4 single-family homes, expensive single-family homes, and allowing a business to operate out of that church may be setting a precedent that we just don't want to go down that road, especially since the comprehensive plan indicates that whole area back there is supposed to be single family. However, I said, you know, if you want to come to Planning Commission and we can have a discussion about this topic and kind of go from there. When I looked at the conditional uses for R3 district, their agricultural uses, educational facility, I looked to see if even it could fit in there. And it's our definition of educational facility is pretty specific in that it says private facility, public or private facility that provides a curriculum of elementary, secondary, or collegiate level academic instruction, including kindergartens, elementary schools, junior high schools, technical and collegiate level schools. Then I, you know, just the mouthful words, horticulture, floriculture, viticulture, apiculture. Some of those I didn't even know what they meant, so I looked those up. And then, you know, what is farming? You know, what actually is farming? And so I kind of looked at that definition as well. And so that's what we're really here to discuss tonight is, do we, you know, is there any means of really classification of this use as agricultural? And I have concerns about doing it. I'm being honest. I was honest with Jennifer when she came and talked to me about it, but, you know, fair enough. Come to Planning Commission and let's just have a discussion, because sometimes you guys identify things that maybe I haven't looked at it the same way as somebody else. So with that being said, I will allow Jennifer to come up and.
That was a lot of words.
It was a lot of words. It's hard to say too. Yeah. And here's what I gave.
And before you begin, just a moment, just to clarify so what you're asking from us is just our thoughts, our opinions. We're not approving or denying anything.
Yes, that's correct. You are not approving or denying. I explained to Jennifer that if you guys agreed that it was agricultural, then she would have to come back through the conditional use process, submit the application, pay the fee. I'd send out the adjacent property owner letters, and we would process it as a conditional use through Planning Commission like we would. So this is purely just a consultation tonight.
Very good. Thanks.
Sounds like the whole Garfield Avenue thing. You're going to go through this. Okay, so I'm Jennifer Barlow, 543 Clark Street. This is my address, Milford, Ohio, 45150.
I think we need to get her microphone turned on.
Really? You want me louder? Okay, Jennifer Barlow, 543 Clark Street, Milford, Ohio. So I guess I wanted to start this with just a little bit of background about Greg and I and how we landed in Milford and why I'm really wanting to use that church space. My business is a landscape design business, but I also have multiple branches of that business. And two of them in particular are the two that I'm thinking would fit into the horticulture and floriculture definition of conditional use. A pretty significant part of the business now is my container planting business. And we service clients at their sites, but we also do some of the designing and the planting in right now it's in my garage. It would be really nice to have a space where I didn't have to do it in my garage. So Greg and I moved here just under 4 years ago, and we live right over here on Clark Street. We absolutely love this community. Prior to moving here, my office for 5 years was in Old Loveland. Once we moved here and got settled, I moved my business here. I had a space above the main coffee shop. So a year ago, I lost my office and then COVID happened. So I've spent the past year looking for a space that was bigger, that could accommodate all 4 branches of the business in one spot, that was not a delicate spot, I guess, let's put it that way. These are plants. There's dirt, there's flowers, I need a spot where I can spread out and I can easily clean it up and not damage somebody's hardwood floors. So the church is actually the perfect spot for me. It's 1,000 square feet where I can do all 4 little zones within that building. And I can do if I decide to do container planting classes and wreath making classes, which I've done, you guys know that, via Zoom. Hopefully we can get back in person again. I would do those occasionally out of there. As far as traffic in and out of that space, it would be fairly minimal. My design office and my client meetings would happen out of there as well, over in the back left corner. So I would have one family, a couple coming maybe once a week, and it would usually be in the evenings. As far as traffic in and out, it would just be me and I've got a lady that's helping me with the maintenance on the container planting. So there really wouldn't be a lot of traffic in and out of there, but it does provide me the opportunity to bring everything into one space. And it's not a delicate space. It's a space where I could really work out of. And this is a business that's kind of dirty. So that is what I'm looking to do. And I'm looking to you guys to tell me whether or not it's worth going to the next step. Is this something that could be considered an appropriate conditional use? Okay. Questions anybody else has?
And Pam, you're saying that agricultural use is the closest classification you could find?
Yeah, there is nothing else in the list of permitted uses or conditional uses under R3 residential district that would even come close, agricultural, educational.
Right.
Uh,
How do you
Is there
feel
no-
about bee farming, Jen?
Yeah, there's some bees on there.
I
probably.
even said to Justin, the property owner, and Pam, you know, I can grow things there if you want me to grow things there. I can grow things.
Because the flower farming kind of,
Well, and it's interesting because, so I went to school, and any university that you go to and you go to apply to get into their college to take landscape design or landscape architecture, it's an agricultural major. I have to every year pay my license fees to the nursery dealer stock, and that goes to the Department of Agriculture. So my business is actually considered an agricultural business. I just am on the cleaner side of it. But it's still kind of dirty. So
Wow.
I mean, it does, you can look it up. Any university, that's the definition of landscape design is in the horticulture industry. So am I farming? No, I'm not farming.
I love all the concepts of your plan.
Thanks. I'm not kidding you, I have looked high and low for a type of space. You know, for instance, over on Water Street, I don't know how to say their name, Baberschmidt.
Oh, yeah.
They're renting out, they're gonna sublease out their property and talk to them. But that's a really nice space with nice floors. And, you know, one of the things Justin said to me is, what would you want to do with the floors? They're concrete. I need them to stay right with, just, that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
You can clean that,
Mm.
you know?
Wow. This is an interesting puzzle.
I know, it is.
Um,
Pam, question for you.
Mhm.
Is there a classification in our zoning code where this would easily fall? Is this a general business, office?
Well, it's certainly a general business. Even in the Milford River District, it would be permitted. You know, it's very similar to what LTD is doing down there, although they've been down there forever. So, you know, she's not going to have any outdoor storage, right? That's what.
No trucks, no, I mean, I may have deliveries, but
Sure.
they'll be there to drop off. And then
That's the only piece that would not be permitted downtown today. If LTD came and said, we want to operate down here, we would say, well, you can't do outdoor storage, or else if you do, it's going to need to be screened. But other than that, I mean, is it a retail? There's an educational component there, you know, I mean, it kind of falls into all of those categories. So it would be permitted downtown.
Which is where you were before you lost your lease.
In Old
my
Loveland.
office above Main Cup, but even my office above Main Cup was just for the design
Office.
portion of the business. It didn't encompass all.
Yeah, you weren't
All
able
the
to do the
branches.
whole thing.
Pam, how did the church, I assume the church, being a religious institution, was able to exist in R3 being a religious institution
It's religious is conditional use in the R3.
in an R3.
Pray in there while you're planting.
Is there any other conditional uses in R3 that approach this?
No, there's nothing that even, because that's what I do. when somebody-
Are we pursuing that agriculture is a possible conditional use in an R3? Is that
It is
what
a
we're?
condition- it is
Okay,
a
good.
conditional use, yeah.
I just want to make sure I was clear on that.
Yeah, agricultural uses such as pasturage, horticulture, floriculture, viticulture, raising of crops or other similar non-related agricultural uses.
What is plant farming versus plants? I mean,
Well, like
Like
Nator-
gardening.
Natorp's,
What's the
is
difference?
plant farming.
Natorp's is a nursery.
Yeah.
And they have to have a nursery dealer stock license, just like I do. but they also grow plants. So that's plant farming.
Oh, okay. So you're not growing
I'm
them,
not
You're
growing plants.
purchasing
I'm
them for your
purchasing
clients.
my containers,
Okay, shoot.
creating the containers on site and then taking them
Okay.
to the clients.
Gotcha.
And I also do floral arranging. I do some weddings and
Yeah.
stuff.
What's interesting about the R3 is that R3 does permit home occupation. So if, for example, she lived in the church, she could use 25% of that square footage to operate her home occupation. But the home occupation is supposed to be subordinate and incidental to the principal use of single family. So,
Oh, goodness. Okay.
yeah.
Jeez. You will live there in the summer.
Yeah, I bet.
And also on that property, it is like you said, a 2-lot property. And I would be renting the sanctuary part of it. There's also an extension off to the side. I would not be using that.
Mhm.
The part that when you go in the driveway, the parking lot, it's right there. That I would not be using that. I
Right.
would be using the sanctuary part.
Pam, what are the ways forward? Should it not be agricultural or educational? What are the ways forward? Rezoning? What are the avenues?
Well, I mean, certainly she could apply for a rezoning, but I wouldn't encourage that at all because it is single family. Comprehensive plan says that, the vision is single family. And I don't think at this point.
I didn't say it was the easy road,
Yeah.
but a road nonetheless.
That is, yes, that's correct. She could ask for a rezoning,
Hmm.
maybe to Milford River District, something like that.
Mhm.
Well, and this is me renting the property too. I'm not the property owner.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, right.
My concern is, when I look at what's happening on High Street, on that side of High Street, you've got a gentleman who's investing a lot of money building very expensive homes along there. And the hope is that that continues through there. So,
Right.
if you were buying a $700,000 home, how would you feel about having this a couple of lots down from you?
Well,
Probably better than a vacant church.
well,
Well,
that's kind of what I think is.
Yeah,
gonna
I
end
think
up
this is
being-
pretty benign.
In this situation, it's kind of like it would be
Is it so
better,
benign?
but like you said, do you set a
Exactly.
precedent or not? That's the hard part.
So how do you, the question is, how do we not
Thought the hard part was
circumvent?
I know.
Wow. Finding a loophole. Oh, goodness. Yeah, because the rezoning thing would be
Yeah.
a lot of time and effort, and yeah, I don't think you'd get where you wanted to go with that. Wow.
I'm like, Lisa, I like all
I'm
the,
surprised that the educational facilities is so
it's pretty
tied
narrow.
to
I was gonna say,
very
it's pretty-
formal education
Yeah.
as opposed to, yeah, because there's so many different kinds of education now, not just that. As a side note, not part of this discussion, but I would think that needs to be updated.
Yeah.
I mean, people are doing online classes, people are doing all sorts of learning. But that, I went straight to that one thinking, oh, well,
Yeah,
if
like
you're
teaching a
doing
class.
classes and it would be so easy, but.
I like all the aspects of your business. It's wonderful. And
Yeah.
love dearly that you want to be in Milford.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Worked from home for a year because I don't want to go outside. I almost did it. There was a place in Loveland and I almost went back.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to wait and try for the church. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We even looked at the 3-family over here over here on 28 that just went up for sale that has a little bungalow behind it next to the crematorium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was already sale pending and it's commercial property. It would be
Actually, it would,
in
yeah.
the right distance. So I was thinking, okay,
Yeah.
rent out the 2 front units and I'll take the bungalow and I'll be in the right zone. And,
Soon,
but it was sale pending and it was quite pricey.
there'll be
And a commercial loan.
the dentist office should be empty soon because they're going in PNC Bank, correct?
That's zoned R3.
Oh,
It's also zoned R3.
It is on
that's
that
right,
side of the
that's right.
street.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
The problem is, while your business, the problem in my mind, that your business is benign, I think somebody said, as far as being a neighbor to a residential use.
Mhm.
If we let you go in, because I can't see that you're agricultural or educational. If we let you go in, how do you tell the next person? Well, you can't. Well, you let them and they weren't even. And it's just,
Mm.
So where I thought I might bring it in front of you, the thing that gave me hope was the fact that under agricultural, they specify horticultural and floriculture,
Yeah.
which anywhere any university is going to tell you what I do falls under agriculture, horticulture, and floriculture.
I mean, it does kind of fit the,
So that's what I was grabbing on.
And I can see that as the narrow path forward.
Well, and when I register my business, when I got a business license in the state, it's an agricultural industry.
Does the license then say that? Like how is the license worded? Is it?
I don't know that I could actually look, but I can certainly do that.
I was just
I
curious.
would.
But
I'd
if
look
it
into
says
that
agricultural,
because
I mean,
that
I
was
think
13
there is
technically
a
that would be our end to-
there is a
If
bit
the
of
state-
alignment there.
It's almost like Miracle on 34th Street. If they're saying you're horticulture, you're horticulture. So
Yeah.
I did turn off a number of universities that specify landscape design and landscape architectural as part of the horticultural industry. But I didn't think to put on any kind of government document. that
Yeah,
classifies
I think I would.
What's your annual license?
The nursery dealer stock license from the Department of Agriculture. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's all.
And
That
you
might
have
be a
to
way
do
to,
that.
like,
You have to have
sneak it in
that
for
license
this.
to do your business.
I have to pay my $125 every year. And they have the right to come onto your property and search the property and make
Yeah.
sure that you're,
Yeah.
don't have bugs flying everywhere. And, I mean, it's.
Sounds
So
like-
they actually have to come and inspect. They
They
would
don't
have.
have to, they have the right to.
Oh, they have the right to. Okay.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's not a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah,
That's a
there's
good thing because it is more residential.
So as soon as you take the flower out of the ground and put it in another piece of ground, you're growing it into,
Yes, I'm growing it.
you're conducting horticulture.
And you're doing that inside
I am.
in a container.
hidden. Yeah. Like an indoor greenhouse.
And Florida.
Throw in a tomato
Though-
plant.
though the-
Throw in a tomato
Though
plant.
the plot of land is 1/1000th of an acre large,
Flower beds out there. I'll grow some flowers.
Yeah.
I'd plant a
Big
pear tree
curvy
out back.
The only thing I
No.
could from a spirit and intent, you could argue that it does kind of, because if I were living, a few lots down from there, I'd rather have her business than an elementary school. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and an
some of the things it
elementary
could be,
school
yeah.
could go
It could
in
be
there.
worse,
So,
yeah. Even really
I
rather
would-
than a church, it's going to have all kinds of traffic and
Yeah.
Sundays crowded, parking issues.
right.
and-
That's kind of, it is low intensity. I'm sure you'll be very busy, but
And
still, but
yeah.
For me, and this, you guys, it doesn't matter to you at all. I understand that, but good grief to go into one place and have all 4 branches right in the same place. And so I have to jump from thing to thing
Mhm.
sometimes, and it would just.
Well, you're also teaching how to conduct horticulture.
Yes.
You are conducting horticulture, albeit on 1/1000th of an acre.
Right. Well, even the.
Our risk here is being too coy about this. And that pries open the prospect for a complaint.
Which is why I agree, but which is why I think if you can show or demonstrate that your business, your this business is reliant on something that formally ties to the Department of Agriculture, I think that's pretty important in this piece, because
Yeah.
I- that's a very formal.
They approach.
Yes, please. Yes. Approach the bench. Department of Agriculture, State of Ohio, Division of Plant Health, Plant Pest Control, Nursery Dealer Certificate. It certifies that the individual or firm whose name appears hereon, having paid the sum of to the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and having complied with the provisions of blah, 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 revised code, granted this certificate authorizing said party to act as a dealer in nursery stock, procured from licensed nurserymen, dealers, or collectors.
What's the business name?
I pass it on if anybody
Yeah,
wants to see it. But
To me, that
that
is enough
says a
to
lot,
kind of
right? To me,
make it work.
there's a four. I mean,
Yeah.
because it is a bit tenuous, but I could see that being very, if that was challenged in any way, having some kind of formal documentation that says you're reliant on the Department of Agriculture certainly allows us to go back and say, well, yeah, do you have anything like that?
Yeah.
You know?
And also I can look into when I registered the business with the state. You know how you have to pick an industry?
Yeah.
I think it was forestry and agriculture. That was 13 years ago, so I'm not, but I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you register with the state.
Oh man, I think that the two things for me are, number one, it's so benign, as you said, it's such a benign venture, and two, the formal tie to the Department of Agriculture, and you are doing horticulture. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
I think it fits.
I could,
Maybe thinly, but it does fit.
I would agree.
You have to hang your hat on what the state says you are.
Isn't that scary?
Right.
Wow.
I could see an argument otherwise, but I don't know.
So I think my next step, what I would want to do is actually apply for this conditional use if you guys think it's prudent for me to do so. Is that right? Is that where we are?
That is the next step, yes.
That's a different value judgment, isn't it?
I mean, I'm hearing that the
It's a tough.
at least 3 of you have spoken up and said that you feel like the use fits into
I think we could,
agricultural.
close enough, or it's, yes.
Yeah.
I think if I go to this next step, I will do everything I can to provide some kind of acknowledgement.
I would want to
from
see
government
as
and
much
state
as possible.
that this
That's
is
what
a
I want to see.
horticultural industry.
You need to, yes, I was going to say, you need to provide any documentation you have that verifies, justifies that you're agricultural. So anything that helps in that argument, because the next meeting, there's likely to be other people there that are adjacent, and they're
Right.
they're not going to be, maybe they're not going to be happy about it. So there's got to be a reason why.
You have to have some credibility in
Yeah,
the
'cause
argument. Yeah.
Even though these guys are saying they kind of agree with you tonight, doesn't mean that they're going to vote yes on the conditional use. That's
Yeah, I would, that's a good way to put it. I would say that I'm agreeing it's worth moving forward formally in front of the planning commission. But I would love to see that kind of documentation. I
get
think
that.
that would just bolster your case.
And now Justin Saylor is here. He's the property
Oh,
owner. And I think.
Have any questions for me or? I just want to make it clear. I mean, we've discussed that it's going to be short term. I would love what's going on down the road happen with mine, but it's vacant right now. There's not many other uses. So
Yeah.
it's been a year.
Gotcha.
Did you say you talked to the neighbors briefly about what we were thinking?
Yeah, I'm on good terms with both the neighbors. They actually use it for parking. It's
Yeah.
convenient for them right now. So
Hmm.
I
That's
don't see
helpful too.
them arguing.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
that's I'm not trying to
Yeah.
speak for them.
I would say try to get one of the neighbors to come too.
Mhm.
Well, they will get letters.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That would be good.
The neighbors that are so many feet beside me, or is
Yeah,
everyone on the
yeah.
street?
I'm just trying to make sure that we are bolstered against those who come with oppositional defiance disorder.
I'm asking for special stuff here. I get that.
Yeah,
So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
right.
Yeah, I'd love to make it work if we can.
Okay.
all right, so I'll
Thank you,
email you application then, and we'll get you on the schedule.
Thank you very much, guys. I know I made you stay that for 5 minutes.
It's okay. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Else?
No, that's it.
That's it.
That's
Wow.
it. Bang that
To
gavel.
adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned at 7:55.
Thank you.